I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with actress Cecilia Leal. Cecilia can currently be seen in the box office smash hit 5 Feet Apart, as well as the freeform television program Cloak and Dagger, and an unnamed upcoming Netflix movie starring Joseph Gordon Levitt. In this episode, we talk about Cecilia growing up in Miami and then making the transition to move to New York and go to NYU TISCH, School of the Arts. We also talk about some of her experiences in television and film, and why she chose to live in New Orleans after graduation. Plus, Cecilia explains the art of French clowning known as Bouffon. Enjoy, folks. This is Cecilia Leal.
Yeah, talk to me.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Cecilia Leal. How are you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I am wonderflonium. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no problem.
Cecilia Leal. Where were you born?
I was born in Miami, Florida.
Oh, like Will Smith said, bienvenido a Miami.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I was born and raised there.
Oh, cool. So is that where your parents are from too?
Neither of them are really from there, but they both moved there as teenagers. My mom is from Buenos Aires in Argentina, and my dad is from a Cuban family. He's the youngest and was the only one not born in Cuba. He, for some reason, was born in upstate New York on Vacay and then grew up in Puerto Rico and then ended up in Miami as a teenager.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Miami is like stitched through your bones and your life.
Well, yeah, definitely. I felt that like once I left Miami, I sort of like thought that everybody was like Latin everywhere, you know? And when people were like very, very surprised to hear that I was Hispanic elsewhere when I moved to New York, I was like shocked that I was considered to be like exotic in some way. Because in Miami, it's ubiquitous, you know? Spanish is like the first language.
Right. I'm from San Antonio, born and raised. So
cool.
A different Latino heritage, but it's still Latino nonetheless. So,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Growing up as almost a see-through clear white kid, I was also surprised, like, when I would travel, and I'd be like, where is all the Hispanic people? Like, the first time I went to California, my wife and I went to San Francisco on our way to Napa, and we flew into San Francisco, and I was like, where's all the Mexican people? Where are they? Right? And my wife was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, this is California. Isn't there just supposed to be Mexican people everywhere? Like, what's up? Where's my people?
Yeah. I thought that about New York, too, which is very much like a melting pot. And you know, but it's just different. Like, in New York, you have people from all over the place. And you do have that in Miami as well. But it's like, it's so concentrated with South Americans and lots of Cubans, lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Dominicans, like from all the Caribbean, like Jamaicans, all of the above. And so it's just so much more concentrated. And I remember the first year of living in New York, I was floored. I like couldn't believe that it was like surprising that like Spanish was my first language. Funny.
That is hilarious. So you growing up in Miami, and when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up? Most people say like a veterinarian.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think I thought about it too much, but at the time when I was being asked those questions, we were all the girls were sort of answering the same things, which were like a figure skater / a dolphin trainer / you know, like things like that. I remember some weird combination of that, but yeah, I don't think it was ever like realistic or serious in any way. Nothing I ever thought when I was like that little ever really became a realistic thing. I don't ever remember having like a dream career when I was a kid, honestly. I think I just wanted to grow up and be a successful human, whatever that meant.
Right. So nothing like super attainable, like sort of like the boy version of a race car driver or an astronaut.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I don't really remember ever being like, as a 7-year-old kid, being like, I want to be an actor. It didn't seem like a realistic option, I don't think. But if I said it, it was like a joke. Like, I want to be an actress and I want to be a pop star and I want to be a,
Right. Sort of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I just want to be awesome. How's that?
Yeah, totally.
Very cool.
Definitely.
So how old were you when you decided that you wanted to be an actress?
There's several ways I think I could answer that. When I was a kid, my cousins and I would put on plays for Thanksgiving, which is kind of like a really cute, endearing thing that all of our parents were really excited about. We would spend like a few weeks prior to Thanksgiving, like preparing a play. Most of them were not original. Most of them were like Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland, or we did Clue the play one year, which was a trip because we were all kids. And we would put them on for all my aunts and uncles, my parents, my grandparents, and take a bunch of pictures. And that was always really exciting to me. I think we all sort of got like a huge kick out of it, but I was like really into it. But even then, it was not like a realistic idea to have that as like a career goal. And then when I got to high school, I was presented with the first opportunity to take a drama class. I was just like immediately drawn to it. I remember being like, I want to do that. And I think once that happened, it became like a really important hobby to me at the time. Like through high school, I was like really into it, really invested in it. And it wasn't until I was like a junior or senior in high school where we were all, starting to apply for colleges and thinking about what we wanted to do in school. And like, I just never thought it was an option to sort of like pursue it. I didn't think it was like okay or allowed or a thing. And my teacher was like, are you going to apply to drama school? And I was like, can I even get in? Like, I'm like kind of new to this. Like, is that even realistic to think I can get into a good program? She was like, yeah, absolutely. That was like the go ahead for me to like throw myself into the process of trying to get into like a really good acting school for college.
Awesome. Now, your parents, I mean, for the most part, your whole family is, I guess, basically an immigrant to America-ish.
Yeah.
So I know that immigrants have to work really, really hard, and they do it so they can provide for their kids and their family and give them a better life and more opportunity. So what was their reaction when you said, I want to be an actress?
I know. It's a good question. Plus, I am the oldest. So I was like the first kid to go to college of my parents. I think that was like the main reason why I didn't think that was an option, just because I don't come from a particularly artistic family. Like my parents are really into art, but they're not themselves necessarily artists. So that was like a whole avenue of like life that I think like they didn't really even think was a possibility or that I wanted it that badly. So when I asked them about it, I don't remember having a sit down conversation with them, but I just remember them being like really open-minded. They wanted me to go to school for what I wanted to. They were a little afraid of the idea of going to undergrad, having already a major picked out and like not maybe exploring other avenues that maybe are, potential plan B careers, that kind of thing. But they were really, really accepting and excited for me. And they struggle with it even today. My mom especially just really, really, really wants me to be successful, and she understands how competitive it is. But they were always really, really excited. When I got into the school, when I started getting into schools, I think they were able to like exhale a little bit. Yeah, they've both been really, really accepting.
Like once they started to see that nobody else thought it was laughable? Yeah.
Well, because I think they never really saw me. I wasn't like a typical theater kid. I wasn't like a musical theater girl. I wasn't like, they were kind of almost surprised that I wanted to take it that seriously. So they just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like some spontaneous decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds like you were also surprised when your teacher, said, hey, you should consider this. So that makes sense that they would be as well.
Definitely.
But I'm going to assume, based on where you are now and what you're doing now, that they were pretty supportive once they figured out that it was a possibility.
They were. Yeah, they were. The process of applying for schools also like involved them a lot, because I was 17 or 18, and for some of the schools, you have to fly out to their school to audition and interview, and they don't fly you out to that stuff. Like that was all my parents totally supporting me and helping me, going with me. That kind of whole process was like really, really crucial for them to be a part of it. So I don't know how I would have done it if they didn't give me the stamp of approval.
Well, at the risk of sounding like an old person who's out of the loop, I feel like you're not old enough to have had to fly out there. Like, couldn't they put you on tape? Like, that seems like a crazy expense for part of the application process.
It is crazy. There are certain schools where they do like regional stuff where they'll have like one sort of like convention in like Chicago or New York, and they'll have 15 universities all watching you at once, so that you're like sort of like auditioning for them all at once. Luckily, and then some schools do like a tour. Like NYU came to Miami, so I didn't have to like I just went to the the local performing arts center, things like that. So I think the one big trip I had is when I went to Boston, and I auditioned for Emerson and Boston University, and that was it in Boston. And then I did NYU in Miami and I did one in Chicago too, and New Orleans. So I did travel a lot. I guess I went to 3 different cities to audition, and that was all on my parents' dollars. That was them supporting me. So yeah, I don't know how I would have, actually don't have the answer to that. I don't know. Maybe these days they do take tape. I don't think tape was like a real option at the time.
Interesting.
Seems
I think
like
it's funny.
Now that we talk about it, it seems like a really privileged thing, huh?
Well, I mean, there's a difference between privilege and uber supportive parents who just want to do whatever they can. I think there's a little bit of a difference there. I think it's funny that, or both. There you go. You're privileged to have parents who cared that much.
Yes,
how's that?
Exactly.
I think it's really funny that when you started telling that story, you're like, well, I didn't travel all that much. And then by the end, you're like, well.
I know, right? I know. I was like, I think I only went to Boston. Actually, I went to Chicago and also New Orleans.
You're like, wait a minute, from 0 to about 7,500 miles.
I know. That's
so
crazy.
Why did you decide to look outside of Miami? Because I think you said you also applied at Miami.
I applied to NYU, but the audition was in Miami.
Oh,
I didn't apply.
okay.
I didn't apply to any schools in Miami.
Gotcha.
I just sort of didn't really like living there. I now appreciate it, and I love getting to go back there for holidays and vacation, because now it's ideal to get to go there just to like hang out for a week or so. But growing up there, I just didn't really like jive with it. I didn't have like an amazing high school experience. I keep in touch with like maybe 3 people from Miami that I grew up with or went to high school with. It just didn't really feel ever like my scene. I just didn't really get it or something. I don't know. So I always knew that I wanted to go to New York. That was like the city that I love. I have an aunt, but she at the time lived there. And my other aunt also lived there for a long time, and they were like role models for me. So there was like a lot of stuff going for New York that was attractive to me. And the one school that I knew was like the top-notch school to apply in New York was NYU for acting. And that was like my Harvard. Like, it was like, yeah, right, I'm not going to get in. It's so competitive. It's like one of the top schools in the country. But I was like, if I'm going to apply, I'm going to do it. So I applied there. And then I looked at other places outside of Miami that sort of had different variances of good programs, but also schools that I could potentially maybe get some scholarships from. That's where like the school in New Orleans and Chicago came in. And then in Boston, those were just like really, really good acting schools as well. So, and Boston was like second in running to New York for me, because it was still like a city. It was still in the Northeast. I was still going to get to like experience seasons and have like city life. But it was like, there's lots more college opportunities there, more young people. So that's why I wanted to leave Miami.
Those are all great reasons. Okay, so you're at Tisch. You get accepted to Tisch, NYU Tisch, and you're assigned to the experimental theater wing. What is that?
Yes, that is a really good question. I had no idea when I got in. I was horrified because they place you, right? So they assign you to the studios. And I was like, what is that? I don't want to go. I wanted to go to like Stella Adler. Like, I wanted to go to like some sort of name of studio that I like knew about. Experimental theater wing sounded like not like acting school to me. So
it sounds like interpretive dance.
Well, there was a lot of that.
Oh, well, good.
There's all kinds of stuff. But so I think it means like more than one thing. But one sort of take on what the experimental theater wing is the idea that like theater and acting and creating performance, it is experimental in its nature. It's just what it is, to try something new, to try different types of doing, different ways of doing things, collaboration, this sort of like idea that it is inherently experimental because you have to be like open to trying new things. And so one take is that we take classes in lots of different things, and we like fill our toolkit that way. So we take a range of different types of movement classes, from hip hop to postmodern dance to Afro-Haitian dance to Suzuki training, which is a sort of like physical acting training, like all kinds of things. Same with vocal work, same with acting training. So the idea is like we didn't just focus on one method of acting. We were taught several, mainly Meisner training and Grotowski training, which are just two different methods. And then along that, it was like we were heavily encouraged to create our own work. So there were lots of classes in directing and collaborating and self-scripting, which is what we call sort of like self-generating work. Really, really amazing training and unique. There are very few programs in the country that are like that. And I feel like people don't know about it that much, even though it's part of NYU TISCH. It's kind of like the little baby, weird adoptive kid. I don't know. It's like not many people know about the program. They know about like Stella Adler and Atlantic Studio and all the big names, but ETW, we call it, sort of slips by unknown, I think.
Well, I have interviewed somewhere around probably 40 actors and actresses and directors and screenwriters and the whole nine yards. And this is the first I've ever heard of ETW. I've never heard of it. Well,
there you go. It's incredible. So I'm glad that I'm talking about it. So anybody listening, you can go look it up and check it out. So when I first got in, I was like floored. I was horrified. I didn't know what it was going to be. Within hours of the first day, I was like, damn, they nailed me. Like, they got me so right. Like, I feel at home. It's an amazing place.
That's really cool. So you went from, I've never heard of this, to, oh my gosh, these are my people. Yeah. This is my home.
Yeah. And I truly had never really had a real acting training. Like, I graduated from a really small high school that had like a near non-existent theater program. Like, it was just very community oriented. We were very, very small and we were very close, but it wasn't like we were taking, it wasn't like really serious or really intense. I didn't really learn about acting at all. I was encouraged. My acting teacher was great and very encouraging, but it wasn't, it just wasn't real. I don't know. I know some people at NYU that went to like really intense acting magnet programs and had like conservatory type training while they were, 15, 16, 17, and that was completely foreign to me. So I was like thrown into this crazy world of theater and acting training history and theater history and performance art and all this crazy stuff. And I was like in heaven. I was like eating it up.
I think that is amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like you magical. Got really, really lucky.
That's how I feel.
Either that or they really knew what they were doing.
Or, I think both.
Well, I think that's a great way to go about it. Now, I'm going to sing you some lyrics, and I need you to explain it to me, okay?
Oh, God, I'm scared. All
right, here we go. Jesus Christ, we don't have the rights.
Yeah, right? That was an insane experience. That was my first production. We're not allowed to be in productions as a freshman because they really want you to focus on your training. And then once you're a sophomore, you're allowed to audition. And the sort of main stage production of the experimental theater wing that first semester of my sophomore year was called We Are All in Paradise. And it was directed by Lear Tabesne and musical directed by Todd Allman, who are both super successful these days. They're magical human beings making amazing theater in New York. And it was all sort of collaborative, and all these characters were created from improv. So we would like use the themes and main sort of narrative storyline of Jesus Christ Superstar, but like had it take place in like a Christian youth group. And we each developed our like own individual characters in this like youth group. And we used the music from Jesus Christ Superstar and the general narrative. But I mean, other than that, it was like completely its own thing. And it was awesome. And we kind of just thought we were going to slip by, but Jesus Christ Superstar was going to go to Broadway that year. So they were especially, on the hunt. And I think it was a week before the actual production that we were told. I remember sitting down at the beginning of rehearsal on the floor, and the head of our studio came in, Rosemary Quinn. She walked in, the directors were there, and they were like, guys, we have to talk. So we have a week, and they're going to come shut us down if we move forward with it as it is with the music. And so Todd Allman sort of came in and taught us a bunch of his original music, and we just edited some of his lyrics to fit our narrative and our themes. and learned all new music, all new harmonies, all new lyrics, and sort of edited the play a little bit to fit with the new music. And we did it, and we killed it, and it was awesome. But it was insane. It was like a really cool, like, the show must go on, like, classic theater story.
Wow.
I know.
How stressful was that?
I don't remember. I remember being
blacked it
stressed.
out.
Yeah, right? Like trauma. No, I remember being like nervous at first, but because I was the baby, you know, like there were only like 3 or 4 of us that were sophomores. Everybody else was older and none of them seemed super scared. Everybody just seemed kind of like excited to take the challenge on. And our leaders were amazing. Our directors were like super calm and serene about the whole thing. So I think that like maybe I was anxious because I tend to be anxious in general. But the memory I have of it was like really, really excited. Shaking it on, like, let's go, let's learn the new music. It was like crunch time. But yeah, insane, totally insane.
So while you were at the TISCH ETW,
yeah,
you got an award for outstanding achievement. Was that based on your entire time there or a specific project?
Wow, how did you know that? That was good. I didn't even realize I wrote that down anywhere.
You didn't, but you know who told me? Professor Sophie Amieva.
You talked to Sophie?
No, I'm just kidding, but we'll talk about her in a second.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that have been neat?
Okay. That would have been so cool. She wouldn't know that, I don't think, but actually she probably does. The way that works is all the studios, they all give out awards, but they pick like, I think 2 or 3 people at the end of when you're graduating. And it's just like an all-around excellence thing. I don't think it's so much about like being the best actor, because my program is like really not interested in even though they have to grade us, they're like really not interested in like ranking and grading and that kind of thing. I think it was more about all around. I was definitely like game for everything. I was really, really passionate about school. Like I was never late. I was really committed. I was like really, really just into it. So I think that had to do with why I got that award. I don't know. It's weird to talk about awards like that. But yeah, I think that's what it was. I like to think that's what it was.
How odd is it going to be when you start talking about your Emmys and your Golden Globes? And...
Yeah, I know. Well, I think all of those are weird. Not that anybody would say no to one, but I'm just saying the whole idea of awarding is just so strange when you're talking about apples and oranges half the time, you know?
Well, y'all heard it here first, guys. Actress Cecilia Leal is the first actress in history to turn down being an EGOT.
No. Would never turn it down. Never. If you're listening, he's a liar. We all dream about awards.
Don't we?
Yeah.
So let's talk about a Bouffon.
Yeah, Bouffon. The Bouffon. So that's like a pillar of the training at one of the many pillars of the training at the Experimental Theater Wing. She's been teaching there for a long time, Sophia Nieva. Bouffon is like, I think the simplest way to put it is grotesque clowning, but it's French. It's originated in France at Le Coq School, which is like a physical theater training in France. And my teacher, Sophie, came from there and was sort of like completely obsessed with this kind of theater. And what it is the Bouffons are like, they mock. They're like these weird, grotesque-looking creatures that traditionally, the story goes, is that they would come once a year out from the swamps where they live into the kingdom, and they would come in as sort of like jesters, but they would mock society. And so they're grotesque in that they look gross, but they also talk about things that are like normally like not PC or appropriate, and like just go insane. So like most things are fair, like most topics are fair game for Bouffon. And keep in mind, like I took this class for the first time when I was a junior. That's when it's available. You can't take it in your first 2 years. You have to wait till you're a junior. And I don't think we had exploded I don't think PC culture was as intense as it is now at the time. And,
it's never been more intense than it is right now.
I know. And I'm like, you know, I went to, my program was really, really, really adamant about inclusivity and equality and all kinds of like beautiful, amazing things that I agree with 1,000,000%. But what I loved about this was that it was raw and it was unfiltered and it was based on being present in the moment. the performative aspect is like really intense. There's no fourth wall. They're talking right at you. They're getting close to you. They're drooling. Some of them play with fake poop. Like, they're gross. They're disgusting. And the idea that they come in here and they're like making fun of you while making you laugh, as an audience member, you're like half mortified, half laughing. It's such an incredible theatrical experience. And it's another type of thing where I'm like, more people should know about this kind of theater. Like, people would love this. This is like a really cool style of theater that is just like not mainstream at all. But I was scared of it. I was scared of taking the class. It was like a really, the rumors around ATW was that Sophie was a hard ass. The class is extremely difficult because the type of training is extremely difficult, and it just really pushes you to it pushes your ego to your limit. So I was terrified, but the first time I ever saw a performance of it, I was a freshman, and I was like, I need to do that. I need to do that now. Like, I felt a calling to it. So I did it, and I did it more than once. I took the class more than once. The class wrecked me, and I collaborated with my teacher, Sophie. She directed a main stage when I was a junior, senior, and I was cast in that. So I was in that with her. And then after school, I continued to work with her. She's incredible. And now I guess you can ask any questions about it because I've been ranting about it for like 10 minutes.
Well, obviously, much like ETW, I've heard of, French clowning, and I've heard of Bouffon, which I assume roughly translates to buffoon.
Exactly. That's where the word comes from. Yeah.
And so I just figured it was general jackassery, but this is the first time I'm hearing that it's grotesque and drool and poop. And
there's like mainly two different types. There's the grotesque and the mystère, which are more like otherworldly creatures that serve kind of like prophets. So those aren't like gross. Those are more like magical and mysterious, which is the word mystère. And the grotesque are the ones that come and mock society and are more gross. So
are we talking like Gollum kind of gross?
Yeah, kind of. So the way that you like physically alter yourself is you have to, so because it's really physically oriented, like you have to be in a hard physical position for it to feel alive, because the audience has to feel that you are in an uncomfortable physical state. You can't just be standing up straight with like ugly makeup on. So you're either like Gollum, like you're on the balls of your feet and you're squatting and you're using your quads and your butt, and you're just like, you have to stay in that physical shape of your creature. And then on top of that, you can't show your hair. So you have like t-shirts and tights and things that are like wrapped around your head, and you have to like alter your limbs so that you don't look human-like at all. So sometimes that means like you have one behind your back and you tie a t-shirt at the end of your elbow so it looks like you just have like a nub. It's like really out there. And I'm like, I've never had to explain physically what it looks like. And I'm thinking, like, what must you be imagining right now? I wonder if I have it close at all.
Well, I think that this last 10 minutes is why half of the population of the world is terrified of clowns.
Yeah, right. I know. They don't really look like clowns. The makeup is black and brown and green. It just looks like dirty face and then like black paint on your teeth. It's awful.
That sounds awesome. So what was your reaction when you got accepted to that class and you looked down the syllabus and you saw, oh, there's something called Poop and Drool Day?
Right. Yeah, I like knew that was coming because, like I said, when I watched it, we had these things in my studio called Share Day, which would happen like once or twice a semester, where the whole studio would sit and we would sort of like showcase what each class had been working on. And it's a way for you to get an idea of what class options you have when you're a freshman or sophomore, so that when you become a junior, senior, when you're able to sort of choose what kind of acting things you want to take, it's like a good way to see. So that was like my first Share Day, my freshman year, was like halfway through the first semester. And there was this Bouffon performance happening. And none of us had ever seen it. Everybody was like screaming. And it's really involved, like with the audience. And I just remember being like, oh my God, they're playing with fake poop. This is awesome. All my friends were horrified, and I was like, I want to go to there. You know what I mean?
Yes. That is unique.
To say the least.
I think that's probably part of why they won't let you do it as a freshman, because they're just teasing you, and they're like, no, you got to wait 2 years. Yeah. And so you're like, no, totally. Come on.
Yeah. It's also just the most rigorous emotional and physical class I've ever taken for acting. So it's like now knowing how my first 2 years, they call it the first 2 years of training, primary training, where the curriculum's already set up for you. You have no choices. You just have to like go through everything they've set up for you. If I would have taken Bouffon when I was 18 and a freshman in my program, it would have been a disaster. There's just like you have to have like a core understanding of yourself and the basics of your training and all that kind of stuff to even be in the headspace for that class. It's insane.
Gotcha.
Hey, streetwalkers. Well, you're not literally streetwalkers, but now that I've got your attention, I am Stephen O'Reilly, and I have a podcast called the Bar Star Podcast. And since you're listening to the Fascination Street podcast, I think you should check out my show. It's just as interesting without all the famous people, because Steve has connections that I just do not have. But if you dig podcasts about music, working musicians, and other random shit that I decided to talk about, based around music, of course, because that's what I do. I'm a working musician for the past 30 years, then you need to check out the Bar Star Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast, on any platform, and make sure you check out barstarpodcast.com. Now back to the one and only Steve Owens and whatever the hell he was talking about.
Shifting gears a little bit, what kind of music was Sugar?
Sugar was, I want to say just like umbrella term rock, because genres are like so convoluted these days, and there's like 1.5 million of them, and I don't even know where I would start there. But I will say the original iteration of the band was 4 members: myself, a drummer, bassist, and pianist, and or keys, I should say, and a guitarist / everybody sang. So I was the lead singer, but like only because I didn't have like a go-to instrument that I wanted to sing. Like everybody was writing and providing content. So the interesting thing about that is our drummer, who is my boyfriend, he is really into ska and punk. And so like his songs always had this sort of islandy feel to them. And then Ben, who was on keys, was really into pop and R&B. And so his stuff kind of always had that kind of feel to it. And Carissa, who was our guitarist and other singer, she's really into jazz. And I'm really into like all kinds of stuff, but rock, R&B, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I kind of feel like umbrella term, I'll just say rock, but there were like influences of all kinds.
Now, is that person still your boyfriend?
She is.
How cool is that?
It is pretty cool. Yeah, that was a while ago, too. Yeah, that's how we reconnected. We went to school together, all 4 of us. We all went to NYU. I didn't have class with him. He's a few years older than me. So while we knew each other, because there's only like 30 kids per year at the school, we were just like sort of in the same social circle. We didn't really know each other. And then when I was putting the band together, I was like, I need a drummer. And then I was like, that guy Casey that went to school with me, I think he's a drummer. And then once we formed the band together, it was super quick chemistry. Like we kind of knew immediately.
Very cool. So yeah. I believe that currently you are living in New Orleans.
I am currently in New Orleans, yeah.
Now, what made you go to New Orleans from NYU?
Well, after graduating from NYU, I kind of was struggling in that the school didn't do a very good job of preparing me at all for the industry aspect. My specific program, ETW, was like incredible, and I'll never trade the training for anything. Like I would not take it back ever. But the actual school, like NYU, does a really poor, like TISCH does a poor job of helping us understand how to get an agent or how to market ourselves or any side of like the business aspect of the industry. Like I was completely clueless. And I think I was also like worn out and stressed out by the idea of trying to like poke my toe into it, or dip my toe into it rather. So I was like, I'm going to take a break from acting for a second. I'm just going to start waiting tables and get my shit together and start seeing what unfolds. I thought that I was just going to like do the experimental theater thing and like collaborate with my peers from school, collaborate with my professors like Sophie. And then it was like I was missing singing. So then I was like, let's just start a band. Like I was just kind of like feeling out my artistic path and seeing what was going to happen. However, it got really exhausting. New York is like magical and I miss it so much, but it is really hard to live there. Financially, emotionally, like all of the above. It's just tough. It's a tough place. I think my boyfriend and I were simultaneously just getting exhausted and worn out. and we wanted to sort of like shift gears, and we were both young, and we were like, I didn't think that I would always live in New York. Like, I thought maybe I would leave and come back. I didn't think I was just going to go to NYU and then live in New York forever. So the idea was like, we're young, we can do it. We can live somewhere else that offers lots of artistic opportunity and go from there. So we sort of narrowed it down to like a handful of cities in the South because my boyfriend is from Jacksonville, coincidentally. And so we kind of wanted to be somewhat closer to family. And I think we narrowed it down to like Austin and New Orleans and maybe Charleston or Nashville, like stuff like that. Ultimately, I think nowhere felt as authentic as New Orleans. My little sister lived here. That was a huge plus. And the acting opportunity here. So the film and television scene booming was like definitely attractive as well.
Well, you chose well to not come to Austin because Austin sucks.
I went for the first time last year with my boyfriend, and we had a great time eating our way around. Like, we're both really into food. I'm really, really into food and restaurants and going out to eat. So I had a great time in that respect. There's plenty of good bars and good restaurants. But, like, that kind of was as far as I felt. And then I guess, like, the nature aspect is nice. But it felt so weird. Like, it felt like a city that didn't have any, like, history or something. I don't know.
Well, that's exactly how it feels all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, it's probably the epitome of the phrase, a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah, I would go back for, like, South by Southwest or, like, a cool concert or, like, a weekend of going out to eat and going to shows. But I definitely didn't feel like I wanted to live there. Yeah, no. And it's expensive as hell these days.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive, and the traffic is terrible, and everybody is homeless and asking for a cigarette.
Yeah,
I mean, it's terrible.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So, well chosen for the New Orleans. What's your favorite food in New Orleans?
Oh, that's so hard. I think
know,
also,
just pick one.
I know. Well, and also, like, do you feel like, do you mean New Orleans cuisine or just, like, a good restaurant in New Orleans? Because these days there's all kinds of good food here now.
You know, that's an excellent point. So let's just narrow it down to, you're going to be executed tomorrow. What's your last meal?
Oh, my gosh. Limited to New Orleans or just, like, in life?
Oh, it's in New Orleans. That's where you're going to be executed for grotesque clowning.
In New Orleans, and I have to pick like one place to eat at before I go, it would probably be Bywater American Bistro.
Really?
It's a weird name. Yes.
I've never heard of it.
The chef, it's a new-ish restaurant by Chef Nina Compton, and her partner. I believe her husband is like the main guy behind the new restaurant. But anyway, she opened this restaurant called Compère Le Pain, which is super successful and really, really good as well. And she's like a celebrity chef around these parts. She's been featured on all kinds of food shows and stuff. She's a badass. But she's just great. The food's like excellently executed. It's got influences from all over, but it still kind of feels like they still use New Orleans and Southern ingredients. So it's got a little bit of everything. It's amazing. I couldn't talk about it more. I could talk about it all day.
Well, I think that is awesome. I was really expecting something else, but that's cool.
What did you think I was going to say? What did you think I was going to say? Like beignets or something?
Well, I thought you were going to say like, a muffaletta from the original grocery store or whatever it's called.
I don't like muffaletta. Yeah.
Me either.
Like you don't?
That one is amazing. I hate olives, but I will eat that sandwich every day.
Oh.
So you picked a place, and that's all that matters. And now I'm going to have to go back to New Orleans to check that place out.
Oh, yeah, there's so many good restaurants here. It's nuts.
Yeah, my wife and I have been there a few times, and boy, I tell you what, I don't want to get near a scale when I get back home because all I do is eat there. I love it.
It's awful. I know.
It's awful in the best way. When's the last time you were here? Last time I was there it's probably been 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Oh, yeah, it's so different as far as, like, the food landscape now. Awesome. You can get, like, really, really, really top-notch quality, like, Middle Eastern food, ramen. Like, you can get, like, that stuff wasn't really as much. Like, that's, like, a new thing. New Orleans kind of has that thing where, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it with their culture, you know?
Yeah,
like, people, it's because it's awesome. However, in my opinion, there's only so much Creole and or Cajun food that I could eat.
What?
It's so rich. Like I can't eat that all the time every day. I get tired of it. You know. You're like, I beg to differ.
I mean, I guess. Wow.
No, I love it. I'm just saying, like.
No, I got you.
I moved from New York, you know, and I was like, what I love about New York as a person that's super into food is that I can get any kind of food, all really good quality whenever I want it, pretty much. And there was always like a cool new restaurant of like a cool new cuisine or some whatever fusion or just a cuisine that like, you know, like I miss like there's not a lot of Thai food here and I love Thai food. Stuff like that.
Well, again, I'm going to have to go back to New Orleans now. So thanks a lot.
Yeah. I'm giving you an excuse to come and eat more food.
Way to go. You're going to make me gain weight and spend money all at the same time. Well done.
Sorry, not sorry. It'll be worth it.
Sorry, not sorry. What's your favorite place to act? In like on film, television, or the stage?
That's such a good question. I feel really new to film and TV acting. Like I'm very much still figuring it out. It's so different. I come from theater training and I love theater. It's kind of hard. Like I miss theater a lot. I haven't been in a piece of theater since New York, and that's like going to come up on 3 years soon. But I'm super excited by the idea of like tackling this new task, which is learning how to act for the camera. So it's a different process. I think Jake Gyllenhaal, I watched an interview like, I don't know, semi-recently, Jake Gyllenhaal like interviewing, you know, they have those like actors on actors interviews. I think it was like Jake Gyllenhaal with, I don't remember who, maybe Margot Robbie. She asked him a question like that, I think. And his answer was, I don't know, like theater is like running a marathon or something. It's like you do all this prep for it. It's like a long-winded, like intense process. And like once you start, you just gotta go, you keep going. And then once you finish, you feel this like massive sense of accomplishment. And then like screen acting, it's like a bunch of sprints. For one take, like you have to just put everything into it and like freaking book it, you know, go as fast as you can. And I don't mean literally fast, but I mean in the sprint aspect of it. You know, you have to like give everything you've got in that one little window. And it is satisfying, but it's more like a bunch of little bursts of satisfaction, you know? It's such a different beast. So I kind of don't know yet, I think. I think you'll have to come back to me when I've worked more. Hopefully, knock on wood, worked more.
Deal. Now let's talk about your work.
Sure.
I believe you're in a movie that is currently, I want to say either the number 2 or number 3 movie in America.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's nuts. Well, I think now Us probably has knocked it off. You know, Us just came out.
Don't care about Us. Let's talk about 5 Feet Apart.
You're right. Yes, I'm in 5 Feet Apart. Very exciting.
So was that just an audition? Like, is that how you got the gig?
Yeah, that was an audition. The production was local. That all shot in New Orleans. So they cast a lot of the supporting cast. I guess I would say like half the supporting cast was cast like locally by the region. So we had a couple actors from Atlanta, a couple actors from New Orleans, and then like the rest were from LA. So
that movie seems like an independent film. Did it feel that way when you were working on it?
I mean, yes and no, because it was my first big feature film. So like, what do I have to compare it to?
True.
I mean, what I have to compare it to is a bunch of like lo-fi DIY, like awesome stuff that I've done with friends. But, you know, that's real independent to me. To me, it seemed like a big shot, like big movie because it had like big names in it and the director was a big name. And even though midway through the process, I realized that it's actually like a low budget movie, like CBS Films. It wasn't like some massive budget. It was a pretty small team and small movie, but it felt so huge to me. It was awesome. It was a great process. Other side of that coin was my first time like seeing what it feels like to have footage cut, you know? I guess I shot for like a couple of weeks in the summer, and I think like a lot of the supporting roles a lot of our content got cut back, like scaled back a decent amount. I think they wanted the movie to be like really just about the main actors. So that's like first of a lot of things, like first big movie, first experience of what it's like for something to feel so huge to me, and then all of a sudden see it in the theater and be like, oh my God, this is weird. Like that scene that's supposed to be here is not here, you know? That, my first premiere, my first all kinds of things. It was really exciting. All kinds of ups and downs and exciting things happening.
So you did get a chance to see it in the theater?
I did. I saw it at the premiere in LA a couple weeks back. It was crazy. So many fans behind barricades for the lead actors. Just like a total out-of-body, like wild experience.
So what was it like to see your face 10 feet tall?
Crazy. So crazy. So weird. It's just like hard to find like proper words to describe because crazy doesn't really mean anything. Weird doesn't really mean anything. I don't know. It's very, I gotta think about this more. It's strange.
Use the word surreal next
Surreal.
time. So you said this was the first time that, some of your work has hit the cutting room floor. How was that emotionally for you? I'm assuming they didn't talk about that at school since they didn't talk about much of in the business part.
Exactly. Oh no, yeah, none of that. It was kind of tough. Not that like I'm in the movie, like, and I'm very grateful to be in it at all, but it is tough because you're like around a lot of people, and it was the premiere, so there's no room for that kind of like negative feeling, like it's all, people are just excited and happy, and it's like this big exciting moment, and there's like a part of you inside that's just trying to like silence down the like little jot of pain that you feel that like half of your footage is not there, which is super common. And like oftentimes your whole part will get scrapped, but it was easy to bounce back from it because ultimately I was surrounded by like a supporting cast that also kind of went through that. Like it wasn't just my stuff that was cut back. So there was
right.
there was comfort in being around the rest of the supporting cast that was also like, wow, okay, I'm still super happy to be here. I'm still super excited that we were a part of this and that we're in it. But can we all just look at each other and have like a second of like, ouchie, that was kind of tough. Okay, cool. Now we're good. All right. Let's enjoy the night. Let's have fun. Let's go to the after party. You can't squash down the feelings because then they just get repressed and come back harder. You got to like accept what's coming up and then like hopefully move past it.
That makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
So did you get a phone call that said, hey, we cut some of your scenes, or did you just find out on the day when you watched it?
No, we didn't get phone calls. There was one actor that got a phone call. So she knew because her role got like significantly scaled back. She had a bigger role than I did, and she ended up with a role comparable, if not smaller, to mine. So she got a heads up, which is great. I wasn't like offended or anything like that.
Right.
It was very obvious that the cuts were serving the story. I think they just didn't want it to feel like an ensemble, because ultimately that's what it was. When we shot it, it was about the two leads, but there was like a really great support system and sort of like ensemble aspect to the feeling of the movie. And I think they just like wanted to really, really accentuate their relationship, which I agree with, because it's a movie about cystic fibrosis. Like it's a movie where that should be the main point of conversation.
Well, I think that makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
If you are curious to hear maybe a veteran actor's take on that, on being cut, I interviewed the father of Clint Howard and Ron Howard, and
cool.
This was just a few months before he passed away, but he had been an actor for, I think, 60 years, and so he had some really interesting things to say about things like that. So if you have an hour, go back and check that episode out.
Yeah, definitely.
His name is Rance Howard. It was a great interview. It's my favorite one.
So cool. That's so cool. I'm going to check that out for sure. I'm always game to listen to other people that know lots more and have been doing it a long time.
Yeah, it's sort of an actors on actors thing, except he was just talking to me. So
I love that. That's awesome.
So tell me about Cloak and Dagger. Now, I don't know anything about the television show Cloak and Dagger. I'm only familiar with the movie Cloak and Dagger from the early 80s.
Oh, there's a movie? I have no idea.
Maybe the mid-80s. Yeah, it's the kid. Do you remember Elliot from E.T.?
Yeah.
I believe it was his very next project, and it starred like Dabney Coleman and him, and it was filmed here in San Antonio.
Cool.
My sister and I went and auditioned for that movie, to be one of Elliot's friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't get it. So tell me about the television series Cloak and Dagger. It's
about two teenagers that come from like super, super different backgrounds in New Orleans. It actually takes place in New Orleans, which is cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. They have both like acquired insane superpowers that are super different superpowers, but like at the same time in their life. And they're the same age, and they are sort of brought together by like a bunch of crazy stuff that happens, and they like form a relationship. And both discover that they each have these powers, and that the powers get like stronger when they're together. So they become these heroes, and they're teenagers, which is super cool. That's the main, I think, premise of like the first season, because that's like their origin story. I've never read the comics, so I don't know like how accurate, like how close to the original it is, like how close to the comics it is. But I know that the powers are, the relationship between them is, I'm pretty sure they're both young in the comics as well. I don't think the comics take place in New Orleans, but I'm game for that little change because I think that's cool. But yeah, it's pretty cool. That's like the first season. The second season premieres next week. Crazy.
Oh, wow. And you're in, I don't know, a few episodes, right?
Yes. I'm in
5
5.
or 6 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea that they shot that far ahead. So you've already done your 5 so far, whatever, and that hasn't even started coming out yet?
Yes, season 2, which is the season I'm in, is about to premiere next week. We've already wrapped filming. Yeah, it's great. April 4th is when it premieres. Yeah, I can't say too much about it, but I can tell you that my character's name is Michaela Bell, and she meets Tandy, who is the lead female, who's also Dagger, and Cloak is Tyrone, the other half. My character meets her at a counseling for domestic abuse and battered women, a group therapy. And I'm like kind of there against my will in a way. Like my friends nudge me to go. My character doesn't really see myself as one of the women in the room, kind of shy. But that's where I meet Tandy. You'll have to tune in to see what happens.
So tune in, everybody, starting April 4th on Disney's Freeform channel. Check your local listings for that. I know I'll be tuning in. And then finally, let's talk about, I don't even think it has a name yet, but I guess you and Joseph Gordon Levitt just make out like circus seals. What's going on there?
No. Oh my God. Yeah, I worked on this movie that it's a small role, but super fun because I got to work with Joseph Gordon Levitt, and the directors are awesome. Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. They did that movie Nerve, and they're like the original producers of the Catfish documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're great. And they co-direct. They're like a directing team. So that was a super, super fun day. I basically got to set. I met him, and also Alan Maldonado is another actor that's in the scene. He's great. He's in the movie as well. I don't really know how much I'm allowed to talk about that movie since it doesn't even have a name out. So I'll just say that I play Ashley, who is a woman who meets this guy at a bar, I guess, because we don't actually see them meet. We just see them the morning after. And they have interesting conversation the morning after.
Oh, this just in. They changed the character's name. It's not Ashley anymore.
What is it?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was like, wait, what? Oh my God.
No, I'm just messing with you.
Why do I not know that?
I'm just messing with you. They ended up cutting that whole scene. No, I'm just kidding.
They actually might. Who knows?
No, they better not. So
I hope not, because that's pretty exciting.
Joseph Gordon Levitt, or as he told me to call him, Jay Golev. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. Now, all reports are that he is the nicest guy in Hollywood next to Henry Winkler. So, is that true?
Oh,
is he
God,
just the super sweetest guy?
He was super cool. Yeah, I mean, the whole day we just kind of sat in our chairs, and I was reading plays because I'm a nerd like that, and he was super interested in the fact that I was reading plays. So we talked about theater, and then we talked about his kids, and he showed me a bunch of adorable pictures and videos of his kids. He's obsessed with his children. He's a sweetheart. He's so nice, super professional. We had a fun time on set. It was great. The directors were awesome. It was a really, really fun set experience.
That is awesome and good to hear.
Yeah.
I always love to hear good stories
too.
about people in the business.
Totally.
Because, all we ever hear is the bad stuff because that's what gets the most clicks, I guess.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So I like hearing the good stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
great.
Cecilia, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
Yes, I can. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter handle is Ceci Leal 478. That's CECILEAL 478. And my Instagram is same thing but with an underscore. So at Ceci CECI _ Leal LEAL 478. And that's where you can find me.
Why 478?
Because I made those when I was I don't know, I must have been 15. And I think Ceci Leal or Cecilia Leal on its own was taken already. And 478 was the number that was automatically attached to my email address at NYU. So I was like, I'll just take that number over. And
Gotcha.
hindsight 2020, I definitely wouldn't have picked that now. But
well, I was just wondering if it was a Miami area code or something like that. Gotcha.
Nah.
Well, Cecilia,
clever.
Before I let you go, is there anything that we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about?
No, no. You covered it all.
Fantastic. Well, Cecilia Leal, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us on Fascination Street and let us get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a good time.
Now, everybody listening, besides reaching out to her on social media, go ahead and go see 5 Feet Apart. And then on April 4th, check her out in the Cloak and Dagger television show.
Season 2, April 4th. Woo!
Stay tuned to Netflix for whatever the name of that Joseph Gordon Levitt vehicle is going to be.
Yeah. Totally. That one. It'll be awesome.
All right, cool. Awesome. Cecilia, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I want you to have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Now, go have some beignets for me.
Yeah, I will.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Hey guys, this is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast here with a very important message. I'm awesome. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, but nope. What's important here is that I am awesome. I started this show because I truly believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear those stories. In the short time I've been doing this show, I've interviewed actors, directors, writers, inventors, podcasters, musicians, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, actual war heroes, even a Bond girl and a luthier, whatever the hell that is, and of course, regular people. From people who wanted to be stars but never gave it a real try, to big company CEOs and people who got to meet their favorite president. I love getting to meet and speak with people who have a story to tell. I feel like everyone does, and it's my job to get them to tell it. You never know who my next guest will be. An Academy Award-winning actor, a platinum-selling musician, or your own mother-in-law. But one thing is for certain, you will be fascinated by their story. So come take a walk with me down Fascination Street. You can find Fascination Street Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, FascinationStreetPod.com. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.